If you're a neurodiverse entrepreneur or professional, whether that means you have ADHD, ASD, OCD, or you don't even resonate with these labels, but you know your brain works differently than most people, and you struggle with imposter syndrome, you're struggling to say no because you care too much what people think, you're going to want to watch until the end of this video because I'm going to break down the very first steps you need to take to overcome these obstacles. Welcome back to the Neurodivergent Superbrain series brought to you by the 25-hour days. My name is Colin Response. I am an internationally award-winning performing artist and entrepreneur, an ambassador for the #1 luxury brand in the world, and I did this with what most people call ADHD and obsessive compulsive disorder. Personally, I disagreed that it was a disorder, and so I built a business that's helped now over 150 neurodiverse entrepreneurs and professionals rewire their brains from feeling overwhelmed by a lack of time, a lack of energy, to teach them how to become masters at executing their ideas profitably and efficiently, so they could cut their working hours in half and add $10,000 to $20,000 a month to their income, even if they struggled with time management their entire lives. And I'm blessed to be here right now today with my guest, Nicole, who is a neurodiverse professional. Some call her the sales grandmaster. And today, I'm going to show her exactly why she's stuck so that she can be empowered to decide whether she wants to permanently remove these barriers from her life today or not. And I'm going to do it while walking backwards. So let's get this step counter going and let's bring Nicole on. How are you doing?
I'm doing awesome. How are you, Colin?
I am amazing. So I have your submission. I'm going to pull it up and I'm just going to have you read it aloud for our viewers here. And then we're going to dive in. All right. Okay.
Cool. So I'm Nicole. I struggle with saying no. This could be social gatherings or certain foods, that aren't in alignment with my goals or my wants. It's easy for me to push blame onto my partner, Alex, or to other people for these things, but that's just me not taking radical ownership. I can be very critical on myself as well as others. And it can be little things like, I'm the passenger in the car, my partner, Alex, is driving, or maybe the way he makes decisions, or that I think other people are doing things that isn't the way I would do it. It could be things that happen in my day-to-day life. And I think like, oh, I could have avoided that if I just did this. Or I believe, that a lot of this stems from my dad. He was a very emotionally uncontrolled individual. I mean, he still is, but he has a very short temper. He's a very negative. He's been through a lot of rough stuff in his life that he never got the help with. So moving on. I also don't want to look dumb.
We'll make sure that he's not watching this.
Yeah. I think he'll agree. He'll agree. But yeah, I don't want to look dumb. I struggle with imposter syndrome and caring what people think. And sometimes I can also have worst case scenario mindset.
Okay, awesome. Well, I mean, that's not awesome, but awesome for you. Your honesty. I'm like, awesome. Amazing. Thanks for the honesty and thanks for walking us through this. Where we're going to start today, Nicole, is I'm going to take you through a process that I like to call the 3 simple steps to asking high quality questions. And it may seem like, wait, what? High quality questions? What does it have to do with anything that I just shared? Well, you're about to find out how it has everything to do with what you just shared. Because all of the language that you're sharing here is a reflection of what is happening cognitively in your own neurology, right? The words that we say are a reflection of the patterns of language that are in our brain, and the patterns of language that are in our brain are actually what influences the sensory faculties around our body, our eyes, our ears, our taste, our smell. Everything that we perceive is in relativity to what our brain has in fact decided is important. So let's talk about this for a quick second, okay? So often people think that their brain is, it's designed to take in information, right? Take in as much information as it can. Really, your brain's a deletion device. Its job is to remove information, because if it were to take in all the information that is around, your head would fucking explode off of it, off of your shoulders, right?
Yeah.
So its primary function actually is assessing what information is going to be fed to my host. Okay. That's what it's constantly doing. And it's using all your senses to do that. You hear people talk about the law of attraction and all this kind of stuff. We talk about quantum physics and spirituality and all, and great. And that is awesome. And that is true. And also, just from a simple neurological standpoint, what you are perceiving through even your reticular activating system is significantly influenced by what your brain believes is important information. Okay? The other piece of this that's important is your brain doesn't have morality. Okay? There's no good or bad to your brain. It's entirely objective. Right? So one would ask the question, well, if there's no good or bad, how does my brain know what's important? Right? You know what you believe is important based on your morality and what you want or what you do not want. Your brain's speaking a different language. Okay? Your brain is speaking the language of information and emotion. Information and emotion is what creates retention in the brain. That's why, if you think back of all the teachers you had in the past, probably had over maybe 50, depending on how long you went to school, 50 to over 100 teachers, but you only remember the ones that made you laugh, the ones you absolutely hated, the ones you had a crush on, the ones that inspired you. The rest of them are dust. Right? It's because of emotion and information. It's not about emotion you like. It's about the potency of the emotion and the information that is assigned to it. That is what will create retention. Okay? So how does that flow into what we're about to talk about today? Well, because the language that we use is always going to be the best language we have learned to use so far. That's what's going to arise when we have a state of emotional arousal. Okay? Which means that if the language you're using isn't conducive to our objectives, our brain doesn't care. Our brain is assigning the emotional arousal and the information together as importance, and it's reinforcing that information to tell your sensory faculties, your hands, your eyes, your nose, your ears, that this is important information. Therefore, when you look around your world, you will see more of that same thing. So how do we get around this? Very careful. Very careful. And that's a process I'm going to walk you through today by looking at this language so that we can actually start to make a shift and now start to feed back very specific language that you will then be able to use naturally to adjust your own neurology away from these things you are not interested in experiencing. Now, I want to point out, bring us back to the very first thing I mentioned, that your brain is a deletion device. Everything is still there. Everything is going to be there regardless. But the difference is what you will experience in the same conditions will be entirely different. Maybe you got a new car or new shoes or a new iPhone or something like that, and you look around and you're like, man, but everybody has this. Everybody has the same thing. Nope.
Yeah.
Just as many, Honda Civics on the road or whatever the fuck it was. It's just that when you got your new car, there was emotion, there was retention. Your brain said, oh, important information. And now it doesn't erase it when you're in those circumstances. Right? So the very first step that we're going to take over here with your submission is we're going to look at the language and we're going to isolate what pieces of it are actually essential to reframe. And I'm going to walk you through this process of reframing and talk to you a little bit about what I call the umbrella effect. And you're going to see why that's so important and how you're going to be able to apply this. And we talk about this a lot over this series. Okay, how are you feeling?
Doing awesome. I'm excited.
Amazing, great, excellent. Okay, so let's bring this submission back up here. Boom. Here we are. I'm going to go in a little bit further so that my head and your head isn't covering what we need to see. Okay, cool. Awesome. So first thing we're going to do is we just need to break it down, and we're going to break down what information is most important. So there's 3 stages. Stage 1 is we need to shift all language to the affirmative. Stage 2 is we need to use what and how language. And then step 3 is going to be we're going to use I language. Okay. But right now, stage number 1, which is shifting language into the affirmative. Okay. So before we even dive in, let's be clear on what do we mean when we say affirmative language? Because if our whole objective here is to dive into make this shift into affirmative language, well, we need to know what it even is. We're going to choose language that is associated with the outcome that we want, specifically. Okay. The best way I can demonstrate this as an example is I want you to imagine you just got out of, okay, maybe don't imagine too hard, but you just got out of an abusive relationship. I'm like, imagine go into the depths of this memory now. But imagine you just got out of an abusive relationship and you said to yourself, nada, like I'm never going to be in an abusive relationship again, right? Like, fuck that. Cool. Makes sense. Your brain's still going to be focused on an abusive relationship, but it's still possible for you to avoid it, right? Because your brain's seeing it, and so you could avoid it, right? So we talk about the umbrella effect, and I mentioned this a lot across the channel, but the umbrella effect is talking about the umbrellas that things sit underneath, okay? The reason why we need to move to language that is associated with our intended outcome and not language that is associated with avoiding the outcome we do not want is because, let's say, you are successful in avoiding this abusive relationship. There are many other things that fall under the umbrella that you don't avoid. Just because it's not a physically abusive relationship doesn't mean that it's not emotionally abusive, or it doesn't mean that it's like just like a boring relationship, or it's not very, you don't feel like there's much care there or anything, right? Cool. So I avoided this thing, but there are so many other things that it could be. On this end, if you were to say, okay, I want a loving and passionate relationship. That is my focus. Okay? Now, if you're successful in that endeavor, well, it will make impossible the physically abusive relationship. They can't coexist, right? You can't have this loving and passionate relationship and this physically abusive relationship. Cool. But also what falls underneath that umbrella are the multitude of other things you do not want that also can't coexist. Because in this loving and passionate relationship, there's understanding, there's consideration, there's laughter, there's joy. These things don't coexist with this physically abusive relationship. So when we think about the umbrella effect and we shift language to the affirmative, what we're effectively doing is focusing our energy towards the intended outcome while simultaneously making what we would like to avoid irrelevant and impossible to occur, versus focusing on the thing we don't want, which increases its probability of our senses to perceive it, number 1. But number 2, even if we can avoid it, we still are in the context of the possibility to see a multitude of other things that fall underneath that umbrella. That's what we call it, the umbrella effect. Make sense?
Yes.
Perfect. So we're going to go through the process of shifting this language to the affirmative based on understanding of the importance of this umbrella effect. Okay? So start with, I struggle with saying no. So the first thing we want to know is, what do we want? And this is where, just speak from whatever comes to the top of your head, or if you want to think a little bit about it. Sometimes it makes me fast, sometimes it makes some time, takes some time, but it could be, I want to feel certainty, I want to whatever, but what comes to you?
Yeah, the sentence I thought of is, I confidently say no because I know exactly what I want and I don't give in to peer pressure.
Because I confidently say no because
I know exactly what I want
exactly I want, and
and I do
don't
not give in
to hear.
peer pressure.
This is the second part I missed.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Awesome. So here's the beautiful thing about affirmative language is It's the sneakiest thing in the world. You won't even know when you're not doing it. And you'll be like, perfect, affirmative language. And then you will use the same language of the thing you are looking to avoid, like peer pressure,
Mm-hmm.
right? So this is why this is so important, because you're
I
going
didn't
to
even need
start,
that.
well, exactly. You're going to start to see the things that come up naturally through what has been impressed upon your neurology, right?
Yeah.
Now, you made an incredible point just now, Nicole, that I want to speak about. You said, like, well, you don't even need the uh like the peer pressure part. Like, why don't we
Yeah.
just get rid of it altogether, right?
It's like having a loving relationship. I already have the I confidently say no because I know exactly what I want.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you think there could be any reason why it might not be a good idea to just simply get rid of it?
Hmm. It's still in there. We have to figure out how to address it.
Bingo. Okay. So you'll hear me say this often: do not erase, replace.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And the reason for that is specifically because all the language that we use is the best language we have learned so far to reflect upon the emotional experience or the emotional arousal that's happening. So let's say we reframed this, and then we just said, forget about this. I'm confidently saying no because of XYZ, right? However, if a scenario came up with peer pressure, just because you remove this, it doesn't mean you remove those scenarios from life. So what's going to happen when that scenario comes up is this is the language that will arise, because there hasn't been any enhanced replacement that you have access to that you would be using instead.
Yeah, I wouldn't even know what the inverse of that would be if we're going to replace it, if I'm being honest.
Perfect. It's like I have this shit-eating grin on my face because this is exactly why you're here. Like, that's
Yeah.
not the problem. That's actually the solution. The fact that right now you like it doesn't come to your mind is the exact reason why, when in those conditions, there's no fucking chance that's coming out. Because right now you're in a controlled environment. You have complete time, as much time as you could take, and maybe it would take us 30 seconds to maybe a minute or two to figure out what the language is. If you're in an environment like in the field, you know what I mean? Like, that's not coming out
Mm-hmm.
at all. And that's part of the reason why this is the language that is reinforced in your subconscious. So we have to step out in this environment. We have to find the language that will then be impressed upon that emotion for your subconscious, so that when you start to enter those environments at first, you even have the access to be like, oh, wait, actually this. And it doesn't mean it's going to be instantaneously easy. It just means it will be close enough to you that you could actually activate it and start to reprint what's happening in your neurology. So we'll start up here, and then we're going to move our way down to this. All right. So struggle with saying no, confidently say no because I know exactly what I want, and don't give in to peer pressure. So now we want to think of what's the opposite of peer pressure, and what's the opposite to give in. So let's start with what's the opposite of giving in.
Strong.
Feeling strong. This would be opposite giving in. Could be strong. It could be uh, could be you don't have to use this language, but as examples, like steadfast, could be like resolute, could be, I mean, these are probably not words that you would particularly use, but to give you an idea of words that have to do with being stable, and like you said up here, the word confident. Say it again.
I said, yeah, just the word stable.
Yeah. Yeah. Does that resonate with you? Stable?
Stable, yeah. Stable, maybe consistent.
Consistent. There you go. Consistent. Okay.
Yeah. I might need to work on my vocabulary here.
This is perfect. That's literally what we're doing. So cool. So shifting from giving in to consistent, because that's in your context, that really is the polarity. It's you're giving in, as in you're being inconsistent with the things you want to do, versus being consistent, which would be I do the things I want to do consistently.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, cool. So consistent. And then we have peer pressure. So then we have the opposite of peer pressure, which would be What?
What's the opposite of peer pressure? I can't think of like a saying or a term for some reason.
It's okay. And it doesn't have to be a term. It's just like, again, you don't want to think that like there's a right or wrong as much as you want to just be like, okay, what's coming to my mind? We think about it a bit. Maybe it takes a little longer, a little shorter. I can share some examples too. And then we find that sweet spot. Uh, what comes to my mind is JOMO. This is a joy of missing out.
Oh, interesting. Instead of fear of missing out. Yeah. Joy of missing out.
um, it could also just be simply like the enjoyment of what I'm doing, or like
Just, I was thinking just the word satisfied.
satisfied. There you go. That's so good.
I don't need anything else. Like, no, I'm good. I'm satisfied.
Satisfied. Okay. Okay, cool. And then with console stomp is crazy. Okay, so now we've moved from I don't give in to peer pressure to I am consistently satisfied. And I assume it would be like with your, say, your decisions, or what is it that you're consistently satisfied in
Yeah.
regards to?
Decisions, actions.
Okay, cool. Awesome. There you go. Um, do you still feel like stable resonates, or you just think consistently satisfied is more accurate for you?
I think I like consistent better.
Don't give in to peer pressure. Just satisfied. Okay, cool. Awesome. Okay, cool. So now we're gonna now that you can see this in practice, we're gonna blast through the second part. So the next thing we have to do is we have to go through and we have to eliminate the things that actually just don't have relevance to the actual reframing. Not something that should be reframed, but we're removing it, but something, for instance, like that is more contextual. It's like, okay, this could be social gatherings, certain foods that aren't in alignment with my goals. Okay, cool. Easy for me to push the blame onto Alex, but that's just not me taking it. Okay, very critical of myself. Can be things like for driving, the way he makes decisions. This is more of a specific example. So I can put that in. Things that happen in my day to day, I think are avoided. That I listed this, I believe, stems from my dad. Very emotionally controlled, so this is more contextual. Okay, cool. So now this is pretty much working with right here. Okay. Awesome. Okay, so now I'll look at this. Consistent actions, decisions, and then this can remain. It could be social gatherings or certain foods that, in this case, are in alignment with my goals or my wants. Now, I'm I, I'm like so specific about taking things affirmative that I probably would reframe even the word want to enjoy. Um, or let's see, saying I enjoy. Now you could choose different words that resonate with you, but really I want you to see this process. Okay. So it's easy for me to push blame onto Alex for these, but that's just not me taking radical ownership. Okay, cool. Can be critical of myself. I can be critical of others, things that happen every day. Okay, so now we're gonna move down. Okay, so in this now it's easy for me to push blame onto Alex. So now we're gonna think about what do we want to be doing rather than pushing blame. What would be the polarity of that for you?
Read the sentence below that. Just, I always take radical ownership.
For me to take
It's easy for me to take radical ownership.
step. There we go. Okay. Now, another little sneaky one. I'm still going to keep this one because this is important, but it's a little sneaky one because essentially I was not taking radical ownership, and now we have it's easy for me to take radical ownership. But in truth, what we have is push blame onto Alex. So not just take radical ownership, which was something we talked about as well, but we want to look at what would it actually look like for the polarity of what's happening with Alex. It could be, again, random examples.
As I
Oh, go
say,
ahead.
non-judgmental of Alex. I do not judge, or yeah, I don't know how to say that. I'm non-judgmental of Alex.
Okay, cool. So now we're moving it in the direction. Okay, easy for me to blame Alex. Okay, so we have non-judgmental. So this is what we would refer to as still negative language, because we're talking about it's not judgmental. Our brain is thinking judgmental. So we got to think, okay, so now what's the opposite of judgmental? That could be accepting. That could be understanding.
Yeah, like understanding.
Understanding. Understanding. Okay. So understanding, it's easy for me to be understanding towards Alex.
Yeah.
To be standing towards Alex. Awesome. Now, let's move down. I can be very critical of myself and others. Okay. So now, okay, what can you be very of? Critical of yourself and others.
I can be very loving to myself and others.
We're getting a hang of this.
Yeah.
So,
all those subliminal tracks I've listened to.
Incredible. That's so good. I can be so I can be very critical of others. So now we can take things one step further, and rather than I can be, I am very loving to myself and others. Okay. Things that happen in day-to-day life, I think I could have avoided that if I just did this. So what's the opposite of that? Like things in your everyday life where you're doing the opposite of that.
Without this experience, I would not learn. I don't know, because I feel like, how do I say, like, I'm happy this thing happened and I get to learn from it.
I mean, you just said it.
I win or I learn.
Yes. So I win or I learn. Awesome. Okay. Which one of these, or some sort of combination, or do you think it encapsulates this best for you?
Probably the first one, because I've said the I win or learn one before, and it's like a bumper sticker. But I like the one because it was more genuine, and I was like, oh, well, I'm happy this happened because now I get to learn from it.
Perfect.
And that, I think that helps the worst case scenario mindset of like, oh, if this goes wrong, it's the end of the world. Well, no, I'm happy this thing happened. I get to learn from it.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
Creative reframing there.
Okay, perfect. So let's break these ones down. Can people think? Sometimes in worst case scenario. Now we talked about this is in connection to
critical
scenario. Yeah. This is connected to this aspect. We'll get down here because there's a small nuance that's slightly different. But let's go up here. I don't want to look dumb. Imposter syndrome, which is kind of similar, but it's more so like I don't think I deserve to be here. More so.
Yeah.
So I don't want to look dumb. What do you want to look?
To be inspiring.
Ooh. I am inspiring. I am inspiring. Okay. Notice how I'm framing, not even I want to be inspiring, but the opposite of I don't want to look dumb is I am inspiring. Yeah. You can't not want to look dumb and be inspiring. You can not want to look dumb and want to be inspiring.
Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah.
Okay, now we're in imposter syndrome, which is again more like I don't think I deserve to be here-ish kind of thing. So what does that sound like?
Here.
Cool.
Or I've earned my spot here.
Yeah. No. Well, here we go.
Or actually, I am meant to be here.
There we go. I was going to say, okay, we're going to take it one step further, but this is perfect. I am meant to be here. This is a powerful statement.
Yeah, like that.
And you can see
Like
the difference between this.
yeah, this is like my new pre-call checklist. I love this.
Amazing. So now, next we have caring what people think. It was in relationship to the imposter syndrome, though. So I'm meant to
Mhm.
be here, and what would be how you feel about other people's thoughts about you being there, knowing that you're meant to be there.
Others want to hear what I have to say, or others are supportive of me. Yeah.
I like that. And me, because it's again, it's different than what was coming through necessarily my mind, but it's not about my mind. This is just supposed to be
I,
examples to kind of.
yeah, I want to hear what you have to say though.
That's funny. Well, what I'm thinking of was really just different ways that this could manifest. Like instead of like caring what other people think in terms of like feeling that you don't deserve to be there, it would for me when I think about the polarity of that, what comes to my mind is like I feel like I'm meant to be here, um, and uh, I am compassionate to other people who uh, I can inspire to feel more confident.
Yeah,
Like,
it's interesting because as you're saying that, now I'm wondering if, like, if I say others are supportive of me, and then let's say, for example, I see like a negative comment or something, like, is that going to derail that
so
belief for me?
at this stage, we're not even you're getting so far ahead thinking just about the beliefs of it. We just have to go
Yeah,
through the stage of actually identifying what the polarity actually truthfully is.
yeah. Okay,
Right.
understood.
The
Okay.
only reason that came up is because we didn't get here yet, so you're still doing it.
Oh no. Oh man. Yikes. We've got some neural, loopholes in there. We got to rewire.
You got some neural gymnastics to do. All right, so um, so knowing that others are supportive of you, the thing that came up, I mean, the thing that first thing that comes to me is like, well, clearly this is something that for you would feel like it is kind of the opposite of that. Like you're
Mhm.
like, well, people, you're caring what other people think. To me, not caring what other people think more so translates to like I uh I feel uh uh like I'm happy to receive all feedback, like
Yeah, that's
or
actually good.
like
Yeah, I receive feedback regardless of the form or something.
you know, or
Um,
like I gracefully like receive feedback, or I I'm enthusiastic about um uh other people's like perspective or like
hmm. I yeah, I care what people think. And it's not that I don't want to care about what other people think. I just don't want to let it affect me. So,
perfect.
um, how do we frame it in a way where I gracefully receive all feedback? Yeah, honestly, if you're gracefully receiving it, then you're not letting it affect you. So I like that. I gracefully receive all feedback.
Yeah, we really want to find that sweet spot of how it actually connects to the thing that matters to you, which is like you're like I don't want it to negatively affect me that I'm getting feedback. So it's like okay, I gracefully accept all feedback. It could be that like
So I
uh
gracefully accept all feedback received.
sorry,
Acceptance.
nice. Um yeah. And let me know if there's a piece of this that is relevant to you. There's a piece of this that comes to my mind that that is in relationship to uh its applicability. Like it's kind of like just because you are accepting it, it doesn't mean that it has a necessary like emotional or logistical significance at all. Um, oh, did I lose it?
No, I'm
I
still
think.
there.
Oh, okay.
I think I froze for a second.
Yeah, I think it was.
Am I
Oh,
back?
there you go. You're back.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Um, and so I wonder if there's a piece of that, and correct me if it's not resonant. If there's a piece of that that exists here that we haven't touched on, or if you don't think that's part of the thing for you.
No, I think it is because I think a lot of the stuff, like I said in the context before, stems back to, my childhood with my dad. And like, if you didn't do something right, like, oh man, you did not get good feedback. And so you were always like, I was always like walking on eggshells and unable to like receive his feedback gracefully, regardless of how it came. Right. So,
Let me know if this resonates based on what you just said. It sounds like there is a connection between, uh, you use the language that if you didn't do something right, then there was negative feedback. And so what comes to my mind is that um, my my assessment of uh, like what is good or is right or something like that, or my worth or whatever is uh, it is internally defined, like something around that realm.
yeah. Yeah, I think that makes sense because if you grow up your whole life, you have a dad and a brother making you feel like shit all the time because you're not doing things in what they think is probably the right way to do it, then yeah, I can totally see that.
So base, it sounds something like maybe something similar to like uh, I assess the feedback I receive based on my personal values.
Yeah.
Something in that kind of realm. What comes to your mind?
Yeah, I think that's spot on. I think a lot of people do that though too.
There's definitely a lot of people. You mean that base they assess the value based on other people's feedback? You mean?
Mm-hmm. Just
I would say
just like a lot of people's like self-worth is based off of like, especially now, like likes and comments on social media and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
absolutely.
Like how many sales did you make this month? Like anything really, I guess it's all performance based at the end of the day, if you really think about it. Um, yeah, it's kind of crazy to think about where it actually really stems from.
Isn't it? I assess my self worth, and you can adjust. Obviously adjust this afterwards. But uh, what I've gotten to is I assess my self worth based on my personal values. Something like that. It may not be perfect at this stage, but I want to just make sure that we do touch on that second element of this that I felt like we didn't quite get with just this. Though this is important, I think this
Yeah.
is the other piece of it.
Yeah, I'll definitely play around with that and find some wording that hits for me. But I do think you've got something there.
Perfect. And then we have this. Sometimes I have a worst case scenario mindset. So, it's probably somewhere in the area of optimism or XYZ. What comes to your mind in terms of,
Ooh, oh, can make something fun. I'm delusionally optimistic.
oh, optimistic. There we go. It's my spelling.
You're good.
Okay, I'm delusionally optimistic. And we can, when I hear this,
I guess there's also a negative thing put on delusion now that I think about it.
yeah, there we go. Exactly. I think it's better than a worst case scenario mindset, but I think we can take it a step further, which is um, with an upgrade from the word delusionally, or a different frame of the sentence. It doesn't have to just be replacing that word. It just like it should be even shifting the. Yeah.
It's like my sarcasm coming through, which obviously isn't beneficial.
Let's see.
I want to say like I am constantly positive or I'm constantly optimistic. Yeah.
It's me poorly spelled. It's okay. I'm constantly optimistic. And Like, yeah, when I think constant, it's good. Like, it could be even like naturally.
Ooh,
Like,
I'm naturally optimistic. Optimism comes naturally to me. Optimism exists naturally in me.
ooh,
I like that one.
perfect. This is the this optimizing.
We like to optimize too. That's great.
Exactly. So funny. So we see these stages that we go through. This is what we really want. Like the whole point is to get to the stage where you're like, okay, wait. Like we moved from I have a worst case scenario mindset to I'm delusionally optimistic to get to a higher quality of language. Optimism exists naturally in me, right? And it's so much stronger, right? So
Mhm.
when we look at this, this is so important because this is just the first stage. The other two stages are actually relatively quick, but this is such an important stage because now we have oriented ourselves to the other umbrella.
Yeah.
Okay. We did this and it took us maybe 20 minutes for this to do this part. So you can imagine, given that these are the areas that are of a challenge to you, that that's not happening in real time, right? It's not going to happen in real time. And the language that comes up is, like I said before, it's the best language you have learned so far to to be assigned to that emotional arousal that's coming up. But when we assign that emotional arousal to different language, we reinforce different things to our neurology, to our senses, and then our senses start to look for those things. Though seeing those things reinforces that reality. And I'm not talking like I am actually a very spiritual person, but I'm not talking from a spiritual perspective. I'm talking from a biological perspective. Like you will actually see things and you will actually hear things that you otherwise would not see or hear, even though they were there, because your brain is not deleting the information. You gotta keep in mind, it's there. It's your brain is actually deleting it because it has not been assigned as important information. And this is why people will get into the cycle of whatever it is that they're in, but do not know how to step out of it into a productive one, right? So stage number one is complete. So now we can consolidate this, and we're actually going to just take a look at what we're looking at right now, which is very different than your original submission. Okay, so we're going to pull these things together. Let me just make this into phase two right now. There we go. Phase two. So now we can pull these at the top.
A few moments later.
Okay, cool. Now I'm going to have you read out the original. Now I want you to just pay attention to how you feel your actual feeling state. Okay, go for it.
Okay. So I struggle with saying no. This could be social gatherings or certain foods that aren't in alignment with my goals or my wants. It's easy for me to push blame onto Alex for these, but that's just me not taking radical ownership. I can be very critical of myself and others. It could be little things like Alex's driving or the way he makes decisions. It could be things that happen in day-to-day life. And I think, I could have avoided that if I just did this. I believe this stems from my dad. He was and is a very emotionally uncontrolled individual with a short temper and negative, etc. I don't want to look dumb, have imposter syndrome, caring what people think. Sometimes I can have worst case scenario mindset.
Okay. Now I'm going to have you just read the polarity, what you're actually looking for in the affirmative language. So let's go ahead and read that.
I confidently say no because I know exactly what I want. I'm consistently satisfied with my actions and decisions. This could be to social gatherings or certain foods that are in alignment with my goals or the things I enjoy. It's easy for me to take radical ownership. It's easy for me to be understanding towards Alex. I am loving to myself and others. I am happy this thing happened because I get to learn from it. I am inspiring. I am meant to be here. Others are supportive of me. I assess my self-worth based on my personal values. Optimism exists naturally in me.
Okay. Now share with me, before we even move to the third phase, how different does that feel to you than your initial submission?
Oh my God, so good. The first one's so sad.
Of course, if what you shared before is the language of your neurology, is it of any surprise to you why those things are experiences you have rather than these things being experiences that you have. Say it again, sorry.
I said I'm focusing on the wrong things.
Yes. But keep in mind, it's not just you, it's what your brain has learned is important, right?
Right.
And that's the point of this, is it's not that, oh my goodness, I'm doing the wrong things, X, Y, Z. It's you just haven't learned to leverage the way that this type of brain naturally works.
Oh my gosh, I
Right.
think that's so funny that you just said that, because there was something I was literally reading where it's like you don't have to, like, understanding these patterns at the neurological level is what actually removes the shame and the self-judgment. Like, these aren't character flaws or signs of weaknesses, right? They're simply just like neural pathways doing exactly what they were designed to do, which is just automate repeated experiences.
Exactly. Now, these are the automated experiences that we want to be having, but we have to know actually how to imprint them into our neurology so that we sense these things, we experience these things. And as much as it is great to affirm these things to yourself, that we can't just stop there and just be like, and I'm going to just meditate myself into this state. We have to actually take action. It's important because if you skip to step 3, all you will be doing is taking actions on this. And this will be a problem because you will experience emotions as you take actions. And through these actions and your perseverance, you will further reinforce this into your neurology and you will continue to experience it. Why? Which is why you've experienced many of the things you mentioned for your entire life. This is why.
Yep.
If you skip to step 3, you will just make it worse. Step 2 is we have to make this shift first, but then you also can't stay at this step where you're just kind of like in la la land and you're just like, and so yes, and yes, I am this.
These are like, yeah, these are like repeating affirmations over and over and over again, and it's like not sticking, right?
Yeah. Yes. Now it's important and there's value to it, but this is not a strategy to like adjust and shift and rewire your neurology to the point where it actually starts to save you time, generate you money, and improve your quality of life.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you feel a little good in the morning after post meditation, but you need to move to the next step, which was phase 3. Okay, so this I already explained why we're doing that. Okay, why do we begin with what or how? Is because with language like, why is this thing happening to me, or when this happens X Y Z, these are not action statements. What can I do to X Y Z, or how can I achieve X? Right, these are action statements. And then the next one is just contain I. We don't want, what can they do to stop X? How can you do X, Y, Z thing? We want it to contain I. Okay. So now let's move to our phase 2 and actually shift this language. I confidently say no because I know exactly what I need and want. For example, how can I confidently say no because of, or what can I do to X, Y, Z? Or what steps can I take to learn how to X, Y, Z? What comes to your mind?
It's not a how question. I feel like it's a what question. So, what systems can I put in place in order to confidently say no?
There we go. Okay. Next.
How can I stay consistently satisfied?
6.5 hours later.
What systems can I put in place in order to confidently say no because I know exactly what I want? How can I stay consistently satisfied with my actions and decisions? How can I make it easy for me to take radical ownership? What steps can I take to make being understanding towards Alex easy? What can I do to understand the importance of being loving to myself and others? What can I look for in each unexpected circumstance to be happy that it happened because I get to learn from it? How can I cultivate a greater feeling that I am inspiring? What steps can I take to define what it means to say I am meant to be here? How can I surround myself by more people who are supportive of me? And what steps can I take to feel confident assessing my self-worth based on my personal values And what practice can I implement to instill a disposition where optimism exists naturally within me?
Incredible. So when you read that, how much more likely do you feel like you would be able to achieve your objectives based on what you just read versus this?
Now we actually have like a direction that we're going in. We still don't know like the answers to those questions yet, which we're gonna have to work through, but like we're just not stuck in this negative, sad me, like victim mentality, basically.
You nailed it. The last thing you said is the most important part and is the entire purpose of this series, which is having people realize that the challenges that they are facing are not something that is going to get fixed in 45 minutes or an hour and a half. My intention is to take people to a place where it becomes abundantly clear to them the direction that they actually need to take, because the quality of the questions you ask will be a direct reflection of the quality of the life you get to experience. So if you are watching this and you are somebody who is, wanting to just keep flipping through YouTube or going through these, generic business programs or use productivity apps and XYZ, all the things you already did that didn't work, these are the things that make it even more challenging for people who are neurodiverse professionals or entrepreneurs, because it's an entire misdiagnosis of the actual problem. The problem is not that you need more information. The problem is that you are not able to effectively take action on the information that you already have, which is why when you get more information, that results in actually you feeling more overwhelmed, because now you have more things to do. You have less time to do them. Now you're literally intensifying the same cycle of getting pulled in all of these different directions that you were trying to get rid of and away from in the first place from trying those things. It's just you haven't yet learned how to leverage the way that our type of neurodiverse brain naturally works. That is why this series is called the Neurodivergent Super Brain. So if you're watching this and you actually want to unlock that super brain, then I suggest that if you look in the description, there's going to be a link for you to watch a video, and you can book a call and talk to myself or somebody on my team, or you can keep playing around on YouTube and have these problems for the rest of your life. It's up to you. But if you want to solve it, you can talk to us. That's what the 25-hour day is about. Just like Nicole said, if you're looking for an actual strategy to actually make these changes and you're ready for that, then you can click the link in the description. Otherwise, you can just watch some of the other videos on YouTube University. So until then, I want to say thank you so much, Nicole, and super, super grateful to have you with us.
Thank you. This was awesome. I appreciate you so much.